Okay, welcome to the current affairs class for the Indian economy. As you can see, my name is Mr. Basopin, and I shall be handling your current affairs for the Indian economy. So today being the first class for the current affairs on Indian economy, in the initial 15 to 20 minutes, I will basically discuss as to what is the weightage of current affairs in the Indian economy for both the prelims as well as the mains examination. Not just the weightage, we'll also discuss the nature of questions which are asked in prelims and mains in the last 5 years. And then we'll start the actual current affairs class. And at the same time, I just want to tell you guys that because this is an open class, because this is the first class, I'm deliberately keeping the class a little light. So obviously, once we progress with the current affairs class, you can expect the class to become more dense in terms of the topics that we are going to cover. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. How many of you have already done the foundation? Okay. And please tell me how many of you actually do believe that Indian economy is tough and boring. Feel free. You can be frank. How many of you think it is tough and boring? Okay, chalo, tough. I'll rephrase the question. How many of you think it's tough? Okay. I'll tell you my own personal journey, right? When I started my UPSC journey, I'm basically an engineer, by the way. When I started my UPSC journey, I used to attend the classes. I used to understand subjects like polity. I used to understand subjects like history, geography, and so on. The reason being, to a certain extent, I had a sense of familiarity with these subjects. Now think of geography. In geography, you will probably study about the river systems, Himalayas, Deccan Plateau. I'm pretty sure all of you have studied that during your school days. When it comes to history, probably you would have studied about Swadeshi movement, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement. So whenever, just like you, whenever I used to sit in the class and when the teacher used to discuss these concepts, I used to feel quite good because I have already studied all of these things before. But when the economy class started, the first class on economy was GDP, Gross Domestic Product. The topic of GDP is such that it can be probably the most easiest topic, and at the same time, it can be probably the most toughest topic as well, the way you see the topic of GDP. So when I was attending the class, the teacher directly started with the GDP. He said that India's GDP is so and so. All my life, I have studied about semiconductors, capacitors. Suddenly in the first class, I'm hearing about a new word, that is GDP. Then as the class progressed, I heard words like repo, reverse repo, all of these words. Everything was going over my head. I could not comprehend what was being taught. And somehow I built a perception that economy is not my cup of tea. It is actually very difficult. That is what was a perception which I built. But over a period of time, when I started reading economy on my own, I started developing a lot of interest in the economy. And look, I'm teaching economy from last 10 years now. So what I'm trying to say, it's all about the perception. If you think economy is tough, it is going to be tough. I believe in this philosophy that whenever you learn something, you have to unlearn something. Unlearning is also very important. What is that thing that you should unlearn? You should basically give away this perception that economy is tough. This is the first thing that you would need to actually approach Indian economy. And I am very sure, just because I'm saying that economy is not tough, it is not going to drive home the point. I understand that. But if you persist with me throughout the journey, I can guarantee that economy will be one of your most favorite subjects. This is what I can very well guarantee. The problem with economy is not the subject. The problem with the economy is the way the economy is being taught. So if it is taught in a very interesting manner, the subject can be interesting. And the beauty of economy is such that, unlike other subjects, I have nothing against other subjects, but unlike other subjects, in economy you don't have to revise a lot of things. Let's say you understood the concept of repo. Once you have understood the concept of repo, later, if you have got that conceptual clarity, no matter in whichever way the questions are asked on repo, I think you'll still be able to answer the question on repo, right? So what is needed in economics? Conceptual clarity. Is that clear? Okay. So let's start with the weightage of economy in the prelims and the mains. That's the first thing that we're going to do. Okay. Just see, this is the weightage of the economy in the prelims. In the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. This is the weightage of economy. If you see the number of questions from Indian economy, now we are getting somewhere around 15 to 20 questions from Indian economy out of 100 questions. Obviously, economy is a core subject. The other core subjects being polity as well as history. And you can see that in mains paper also. GS paper 1 is dominated by which subject? History. Paper 2 is dominated by polity. Paper 3 is dominated by economy. So these are the three core subjects, right? So obviously, because this is one of the core subject, we can expect 15 to 20 questions. Within Indian economy, if you closely analyze the PYQs, the PYQs can be broadly categorized into different pillars, as you can see. One pillar is banking and finance, international institutions, government schemes, external sector, taxation, and the core concepts. Basically, core concepts are related to your concepts from NCERT textbook, like the concept of national income, microeconomics, those concepts. Can you observe the pattern? Among all of these themes, from which theme are you getting maximum number of questions every year? It is banking and finance. Consistently, you can see around 6 to 8 questions are asked from the first pillar of banking and finance. Within the topic of banking and finance, slowly there has been a change in the nature of questions which is being asked. Within banking and finance, I would say 2 to 3 years before, questions used to be asked from monetary policy, RBI. But now, the questions are getting shifted towards capital market. I hope you must have seen that trend. This year also, you had a number of questions from the chapter of capital market. Why it is important? The reason is very simple. This year's economic survey has highlighted that we are seeing a financialization of Indian economy. What do you mean by financialization? Anyone? Financialization of Indian economy. What do you think the word could be? Yeah. I would not say we are not still over-dependent, but domination of financial sector. There has been a rapid growth of banks, insurance companies, pension fund companies, and mutual fund companies. That is why, because Indian economy is rapidly undergoing financialization, UPSC has been asking questions from capital market. Clear with that? Okay. Apart from that, you could see the other themes from where the questions are asked, from taxation, international institutions, and so on. So the most important theme happens to be the theme of banking and finance. This is as far as the prelims examination is concerned. When you see the mains examination, economy is part of GS paper 3, right? Within paper 3, you have number of other subjects. You have environment, then you have disaster management, internal security, science and tech, right? Among all of these subjects, the subject which gets the highest weightage in GS paper 3 is economy. Out of 250 marks allocated in paper 3, 100 marks guaranteed would be asked from Indian economy. And there's a pattern also in GS paper 3. The first 4 10-marker questions and the first 4 15-marker questions, they are invariably being asked from Indian economy. And if you see the syllabus of Indian economy, the syllabus can be broadly categorized into agriculture, land reforms, food processing industries. That is one pillar. Why I'm considering them one pillar? Because all of that is related to one theme of agriculture. Then you have other themes like growth and development, budgeting, industrial policy, and infrastructure. Can you see which theme gets the highest weightage in the mains examination? It is actually agriculture. So there is one important thing that you should know. If you see, for Indian economy, from the perspective of prelims, the most important pillar, as we discussed, is the pillar of banking and finance. But for mains, it is actually the pillar of agriculture. Clear with that? Similarly, let's say this is your history. Whatever you study for history, the syllabus that you study for history, the same syllabus you'd study even for mains. So the syllabus is same for both prelims as well as mains when it comes to history. When you see polity, whatever you study for prelims, that also becomes important for what? Mains examination. But is that alone sufficient? No. You have to study something extra for the mains examination when it comes to polity. Like you may read Lakshmikant book. It might be sufficient only for prelims, but not sufficient for the mains examination. But if you see Indian economy, and if I could represent Indian economy in the form of a Venn diagram, the Venn diagram would show something like this. Prelims and mains. I hope you understood the significance of this Venn diagram, right? What you study for prelims might not be important for mains. What you study for mains might not be important for prelims. You study monetary policy in detail in prelims, like your repo, reverse repo, standing deposit facility, and so on. But you never get questions in the mains examination. In mains, probably you'll study about public-private partnership. But public-private partnership is purely important from the perspective of mains, not important from the perspective of prelims. I hope you understood the basic idea of that. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, let us just look at the importance of current affairs in the prelims examination. As you can see, I have basically tried to compile all the current affairs questions in the last 5 years. Basically to drive home a point that how important current affairs is for your prelims examination. Consistently, the number of questions from Indian economy is around 15 to 20. You can easily observe that. But out of those 15 to 20 questions, can you see the weightage for current affairs? It is almost, I would say, 50%. 50% questions in Indian economy are from current affairs directly, or they may be motivated from current affairs. When I say motivated from current affairs, I'm saying conceptual current. Let's look at some examples. When was RBI established? Which year? Yes? 1935. What happened in 2025? RBI celebrated 90 years of its establishment, right? So in Prelims 2025, there was a question on RBI. You know what was the question on RBI? The question on RBI was, which among the following are the sources of income for the Reserve Bank of India? It is conceptual question. But why was it asked only in 2025? Why not in 2024 or 2020? Because in 2025, we celebrated 90 years of RBI's establishment. That is reason number 1. Reason number 2, you must have studied in the newspapers that RBI has done a record transfer of dividend to the government. So obviously, it's a current affairs topic. But from this current affairs topic, don't you think the static topic of how does RBI earns profit becomes important? That is what was asked in Prelims 2025. Then we also had a question on alternate investment fund. Why was it asked? Reason number 1. In the recent budget, the finance minister gave some clarification on taxation of alternate investment funds. Second, we have also set up a fund of fund for the startups. What is a fund of fund? Fund of fund is a alternate investment fund. If you look at this question, right? The question was, which among the following can be considered as alternate investment fund? It is a static question when you see it. But actually motivated from where? From the current developments. Same way, you could also see about UPI. You know, our UPI has become global now. Our UPI is now being accepted in other countries as well. It is accepted in countries such as Singapore, UAE, and so on. So in prelims, there was a very factual question. The factual question was, in which among the following countries is UPI accepted? Directly from current affairs. I hope you are getting this point. Okay. Similarly, there was a recent debate on whether we should impose tax on agricultural income or not. Most of you must be knowing that the tax on agricultural income is right now exempted, and it has become one of the biggest source of money laundering. So there was a proposal that we should tax agricultural income. On that, there was a question. Similarly, government in the year 2024, I guess somewhere around November 2024, government launched a scheme called as White Revolution 2.0. You know White Revolution 2.0? It is with respect to milk. So government launched White Revolution 2.0. Based upon that, in this year prelims, we had a question on Rashtriya Gokul Mission. And can you see, every year, you are getting some questions related to schemes. And people keep asking me, sir, how should I prepare for schemes? Because there are so many schemes, right? It's being said that if you start studying schemes, the schemes itself can be considered as a subject in itself, just like economy. I hope you are getting that point. But How do you optimize your efforts? Do not study random schemes. Study those schemes which are in news. Take for example, with respect to SHGs, self-help groups. There was a question on self-help group. Why was it in news? Because the government has launched a scheme of creating Lakpati Didis. From there, this question was asked. Same way, there was a question on CSR. Now, people were confused as to why question on CSR was asked. The reason is, in 2024, we celebrated 10 years of CSR, corporate social responsibility. So obviously, it's an important topic in itself. Clear that? So you can see here how questions have been asked in the previous year prelims from current affairs directly or motivated from current affairs. I will be sharing this particular PPT at the end of the class. You can simply go through the PPT. You can take your time. Okay? This is as far as the prelims is concerned. Let's see the mains. I told you what is the weightage of Indian economy in GS paper 3? 100 marks, right? And out of that 100 marks, consistently 50% and above marks are being asked from current affairs. Can you see? 60, 65, 55 and 55. Example is in 2024, there was a question on merits and demerits of labor codes. If you see your syllabus, Economica, in that there was just one word mentioned, which is that employment. That's it. From employment, what is asked is merits and demerits of labor code. Don't you think labor code is in news, right? Same way, last year, I hope some of you must be having basics, that RBI is the nodal agency for controlling inflation. But last year, if you see, the inflation, which is measured by CPI, was much higher than the threshold. It is somewhere around 6%. And one of the main reasons for higher inflation was increase in food prices. Now tell me, why do food prices in India increase? Is it demand side or supply side? It's mainly because of supply side. When we have a shortage of food, the food prices will skyrocket. What is RBI doing in monetary policy? Is it controlling the demand or is it controlling the supply? Like RBI will increase the repo rate. RBI will increase the reverse repo. What is RBI doing? RBI is sucking out money by increasing repo and reverse repo. It is trying to control the demand. Why is food inflation caused? Demand and supply. It is supply. What is RBI doing? Controlling the demand. So the question was, how effective is RBI in controlling the inflation? This was a question asked in mains. Did you get the point? Okay. Similarly, you can see the other questions. I would say you can focus on this. In the year 2015, we changed our GDP computation methodology. And that was changed based upon the recommendation of a committee called as K. Sundaram Committee, 2015. After we changed our GDP computation methodology, some of the economists started raising concerns. Their concerns was that India is probably inflating its GDP numbers. And that economist was none other than India's ex-chief economic advisor, Mr. Arvind Subramanian. I hope you know who is the chief economic advisor. He is the one who writes the economic survey. So all the time when he was chief economic advisor, he used to highlight everything is good about Indian economy. But as soon as he vacated his post, he said that India is inflating its GDP numbers. That was in news. Based upon that, you had this question in mains 2021. Same way, after COVID-19 pandemic, see, during COVID, what happened? Our GDP fell drastically like this. And after COVID-19 pandemic, our GDP registered a sharp rebound. It is showing a V-shaped recovery. Government said it's a V-shaped recovery. Economists were not convinced. They said it's not V. They said it is K. Some people said no, it's not even K. They said it is W-shaped. So there's a debate. On that only we had a question. The question was, do you think Indian economy has shown a V-shaped recovery? Don't you think it's a very tricky question? Because here you'll be in a dilemma, whose side should I take? Should I take the government side or should I take the side of the economist? But this was the question which was asked. I hope you understood the overall importance of current affairs. So just to make you understand, in prelims, out of 15 to 20 questions, you can expect around 9 to 10 questions, either directly from current affairs or motivated. In mains, out of 100 marks, more than 50 marks are from current affairs. Apart from that, okay. Some people, I'm not saying all, some people must have got into this habit of reading newspapers. You open the front page. On the front page, you'll come across some polity-related articles. Let's say about the recent resignation of Vice President. You read about this article. When you see the heading itself, right, the article heading, your mind will take you back to the Lakshmikant book, where you'll be able to recall how is Vice President appointed, to whom will he give his resignation. Then you'll also try to recall about the electoral college also, right? All of these things you'll be able to recall because this is something which you have studied. You'll study the front page, then you start going to IR page. Obviously, IR is very interesting if you are following it regularly. So it becomes very interesting. As soon as you reach the economy page, you'll just simply look at the page. Most of the things will be over the top. So you'll just skim the page. Has it been happening to you or not? You open the page, on the page you study, or you'll come across net FDI in India has reduced. You will think, अभी तक तो हमने FDI पढ़ा था. What is this new concept of net FDI? So this is a completely new concept, right? So you'll not be able to correlate that. So the problem with economy is you can't approach economy, current affairs unless you're strong in what? Static part. Your static should be strong. Let me just give you an example. Look at this. Prelims 2021 question. Consider the following statements. Okay. Why was it asked, by the way? This was asked because there was a tussle between the RBI governor and the government, which led to the then resignation of RBI governor, Mr. Urjit Patel. This was a question which is derived from current affairs. But can you see 1, 2, 3, 3 points? Can you see even a single current affairs statement there? All the 3 statements are from static part, right? But concentrate on the second statement, everyone. Second statement, what does it say? Certain provisions in the Constitution of India give the central government the right to issue directions to RBI in public interest. When the tussle was going on, In the RBI Act 1934, we have a separate section called as Section 7. And this Section 7 appeared repeatedly in various newspapers. Under Section 7, the central government can issue directions to RBI in matters of public interest, which was in news that time. If you have read the news, and if you know that the government can issue directions to RBI not under Indian Constitution, but under which act? RBI Act. You know that the second statement is wrong. Yes. Second statement is wrong because it says Constitution. Go by the elimination. I can eliminate this. I can eliminate this. I can eliminate this. And I get the right answer. Just by knowing one single thing, that how does the government get the right to issue directions? Clear? Same way. Look at this. With reference to urban cooperative banks, you must have studied the structure of banking. We have one category of banks called as urban cooperative banks. In order to improve the regulation of urban cooperative banks, the Parliament passed a law called as Banking Regulation Amendment Act 2020. Which year was it passed? 2020. Can you see year? 2021. So when this act was passed, don't you think that as a student of economics, you should know how are these banks regulated? Who regulates urban cooperative banks? Anyone? Both? Both the state. But at the state level, who regulates the urban cooperative banks? Is there a separate authority for regulating the urban cooperative banks? Registrar of Cooperative Societies. So there is a separate authority at the state level, which I know this from the recent amendment, which was in news. Can I eliminate the first option? They are supervised and regulated by local boards set up by the state government. It's not local board, na? So I can eliminate one. I get the right answer, 2 and 3. Did you get the point, everyone? It is not just for prelims, even in mains also. Read this question. Second part, examine the role of PPP model in the redevelopment of railway stations. So what we have done, we have developed railway stations in public-private partnership mode. Like India's first railway station is Rani Kamlapati railway station in Bhopal. This was in news. Second part of the question is what? Current affairs. But first part, it is static. So that's what I said. Current affairs requires integration of the static part. Clear with all of this thing? Okay. So what we'll do is, having basically discussed the importance and what kind of questions are asked, let me first tell you as to how I as a faculty will be covering the current affairs topics in the classes. So if you see, number one, generally we keep saying to students, please read only one newspaper. You can read The Hindu or Indian Express. Do not read more than one newspaper. But what I will be doing in the class is, you keep reading the newspaper that you are referring to. But when I am covering the articles, I will be covering articles from multiple sources. Like I'll pick up articles from multiple business-related newspapers, from EPW as well as government website. So we'll have a comprehensive coverage of the articles. That's the first thing. Second thing is, because unlike other subjects, in economy, you first need to know the basics to later understand the current affairs. In these classes, I'll also be covering the static part. Like in today's class, if I'm going to discuss the topic of decline in net FDI, I will start with what is FDI in the first place, static part. Is that clear? Similarly, if I'm going to discuss about banking system liquidity, I will also cover static part of what is variable rate repo. So we'll be integrating current affairs with the static part. And we'll discuss an article from both prelims and mains perspective. It might so happen that there are certain articles which are purely important from prelims perspective. So we'll discuss only the prelims perspective articles. After discussing a topic in the class, right in the class itself, I will help you test the knowledge that you have got. To do so, what we'll be doing is, we'll be discussing the previous year questions, all the previous year questions. Like if today I'm discussing FDI, I'll also take up the previous year questions on FDI. Plus, we'll also have practice MCQs. You can just take your handout, everyone. Can you see there are practice MCQs? So you'll have practice MCQs on each and every topic that we are covering. So what I have done is, for the first class, I have framed somewhere around 15 MCQs, which we will be covering in the class itself. We'll be discussing the answers to those MCQs. Apart from that, in the class, we will also do the answer writing practice for the mains examination. So whichever mains related topics I'm going to cover, I will discuss the previous year question. Then there will be a practice question. I will give you, let's say, around 10 minutes in the class itself, and you will be required to write an answer to that particular question and later show it to me. Lastly is notes for your quick revision. Now it might so happen that you are attending the class for the entire year. What is important is, just before the prelims examination, just before the mains examination, you are able to recall all the current affairs things at one particular place. For that, we will provide you with the soft copy notes as well as the hard copy notes that you are able to see. For example, I'll also give you the mind maps for the topics in the class. A sample mind map is something like this. I was telling to you about financialization of Indian economy, right? Can you see with respect to financialization of Indian economy? You have what is the present status, what is the relationship, how overdevelopment of financial sector can affect the economy, and what is the way forward. Because I believe in mains examination, what is important is your ability to recall points. More points you are able to recall, more marks you'll be able to get. And to recall the points, what you need to have is one pager notes. That is very important. That's what we'll be doing for current affairs also. Clear with that? Okay, fine. Do you have any questions before I start with the first topic? Anyone has anything to ask? Nothing? Chalo. Let's start with the first topic about net FDI. Okay, I'll tell you where all you can incorporate the points in the handout that is provided. Meanwhile, just concentrate on what I am discussing. Let's discuss the background to this particular topic. If you see the background, the gross FDI into India, the amount of FDI into India, it reached an all-time high of around $85 billion in the year 2020-21. Any specific reason? 2020-21, why did FDI into India increase so much? Is there any specific reason? Basically what happened is during COVID, all the countries across the world were following easy money policy or expansionary money policy. There was surplus funds in the global economy. Like you must be knowing about US, Europe, all these countries were following expansionary policy. So large amount of money flew to India in the form of FDI. So we had a record FDI in the year 2020-21. After that, for next 3 years, FDI into India reduced. Fortunately, in the year 24-25, the gross FDI into India has picked up. After seeing a decline, it has now increased. It has increased to somewhere around $81 billion. Have we reached that level of all-time high? We are still not reached that. But still, why are we happy? We are only happy because at least it has not declined further. Instead of declining further, it has increased. But the problem is, if you see the net FDI, it has declined by almost 96% in 24-25 as compared to the previous year. The previous year is 23-24. As compared to that year, it has declined by how much? 96%. This large scale decline or not? Sudden decline of 96%. This is now a cause of concern. With respect to this decline, India's central bank, RBI, says it is not a matter of concern. RBI is basically saying, let's not worry about it. On the other hand, if you see the economist, they are saying it is actually a matter of concern. Was there any similar debate before? Was there a similar debate before? I told you, no? V-shaped recovery. Government said we have a V-shaped recovery. Economists said it's not V-shaped, it is K-shaped or W-shaped. So with respect to this topic, what becomes important or what dimensions we are going to cover? Number one, we'll first start off with the meaning of FDI. Let's understand what is FDI in the first place. Second, we will understand what is the difference between FDI and FPI, foreign portfolio investment. Third, what are the recent developments in FDI policy in the last 1.5 to 2 years, recent developments. Then we'll also cover what are the instruments which are eligible to be considered as FDI. Then the recent trends in FDI, because UPSC Prelims generally asks questions on trends. And then lastly, we'll discuss it from the perspective of mains, that is the recent debate. So all of these dimensions we are going to cover one by one. What we'll do, we'll first start with this dimension, that is meaning of foreign direct investment. With respect to meaning, can anyone tell me what exactly is FDI? In most simple words, from a layman's perspective. More than 10% of? Okay. From a layman's perspective? Foreign company? Okay. I'll just tell you from a layman's perspective. From a layman's perspective, the most easiest way to know FDI is if a foreign company establishes its base in India. If a foreign company establishes its base to provide for goods and services, we will call it as foreign direct investment. So here, when I'm saying it is establishing its base, it may establish its base entirely on its own, or it may establish its base in partnership with the Indian company. Example being, let's say you want to order something from online. You want to do online shopping. You will generally order something online from Amazon or Flipkart, right? Let's say you don't want to order online. You want to go out for shopping. Your family must be using a car. And let's say that car is Honda or Hyundai or Kia. All of these companies are what? They are basically foreign companies. You go for shopping. Let's say you purchase textiles, clothes. You may purchase clothes from Zara or H&M or Marks and Spencer. What are all of this? They are FDI. If you see Zara is actually a foreign investment which is in partnership with Tata company. If you want to purchase, let's say, shoes, contrary to what we believe, you must understand Bata is not an Indian company. Bata is not an Indian company. It has been in India since 1930s, so it looks more desi than the other companies, but it's not a Indian company. Similarly, now these days you must have come across a company called as Onitsuka Tiger. You must have come across this company. It's a footwear brand. Apple iPhone has set up its stores, right? It has set up its stores, one in Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai, and the other one is Saket Celestity Walk. It is an FDI. Just a week back, Tesla has opened its outlet, showroom outlet, in same Bandra Kurla complex of Mumbai. It is once again a FDI. Did you understand what exactly is FDI? So FDI is something that we are surrounded mostly all the time, but we fail to realize that this exactly is an foreign direct investment. This is from a layman's perspective, but from a technical perspective, let me just tell you how does it work. You have a foreign company. This foreign company makes investment in shares of a Indian company. If it makes investment in what? In shares of a Indian company. Example of which is, let's say, I hope you know Starbucks is actually a joint venture between Starbucks and Tata. So if you look at this venture, in this venture, the foreign company has 50% stakes and Indian company has the remaining 50% stakes. Getting that point? Or I also gave an example of Zara also. It's a collaboration. In the past, if you see, you must have heard of companies like Hero Honda, Maruti Suzuki, Bajaj Alliance. All of this are an example of collaboration between a foreign company and an Indian company. It might so happen that you have a foreign company. This foreign company is setting up its subsidiary in India. When I say subsidiary means, in this case, this company is 100% owned by the foreign company. Once again, the investment is coming in the form of what? It is coming in the form of shares only. Clear with that? Example of that is, let's say, Foxconn. I hope all of you must have heard about Foxconn, right? It's an example of, once again, a FDI where you have a foreign company which has 100% stakes in Foxconn. So this is an example of foreign direct investment. If you see foreign portfolio investment, it is also called as foreign institutional investment. It was earlier called as foreign institutional investment. In a foreign portfolio investment, you have a foreign company. This particular foreign company might invest in a Indian company. What can it invest in? It can invest in, let's say, shares. It can invest in bonds. It can invest in government securities. Or it can invest in, let's say, commercial paper. I hope you're getting this point. Now, think, if this foreign company is investing in bond, if it is investing in government security, in commercial paper, for sure, what it will be always? It will always be FPI. Is there any doubt about it? Obviously, there's no doubt. But the problem arises if the foreign company is investing in what? In shares. Can you see here also the foreign company is investing in shares of Indian company? In FPI also, foreign company is investing in shares of Indian company. Did you get the point, everyone? Now think of it. I'll just give an example. You have Citibank. Citibank purchases shares of SBI. Tell me whether it is FDI or FPI. Can we say with guarantee that this is an FDI or FPI? Because Citibank, which is a foreign bank, is purchasing shares of SBI, which is an Indian company. You cannot say for sure whether it is an FDI or FPI, because shares is something which is common to both FDI and FPI. I hope you get to know this point. That is why, to avoid this confusion, we have a definition of FDI, which is given by a committee called as Arvind Mayaram Committee. So let's understand what's the definition. Please write down. I think I left a space for meaning of FDI. So write. According to Arvind Mayaram Committee, comma, FDI is a foreign investment. FDI is a foreign investment which fulfills. FDI is a foreign investment which fulfills the three criteria. First criteria you can write down. First criteria. Investment in 10% or more. Investment in 10% or more shares. 10% or more shares of listed Indian company. Okay, let's understand this first thing. Please underline the word listed. So when you see the word listed company means it's a company which has issued its shares. It has gone public. And those shares are being traded on the stock exchanges. Then such a company will call them as listed company. For example, I hope you know LIC, Life Insurance Corporation. LIC until 2 years back was actually a unlisted company because LIC had not issued its shares. But LIC 2 years back, it has issued its shares, and you can easily purchase the shares of LIC on Bombay Stock Exchange as well as National Stock Exchange. So LIC, which was earlier a unlisted company, has now become what? A listed company. Similarly, you must have seen around you, so many Indian companies have got listed now. Can you give me some examples? Can you give me some examples of listed company? Zomato, good. Paytm, you must have heard of. Nykaa. Yeah. So all of these companies, they have gone public. They have issued their shares. So in a listed company, how much percentage of shares should the foreign company invest? 10% or more. Only then we'll call it as FDI. Agar less than 10% hai to, it will become FPI. Is that clear? Okay. Second criteria. Second criteria. Investment in shares. Investment in shares. Investment in shares of unlisted Indian company. Investment in shares of unlisted Indian company. In the bracket, write irrespective of the investment. In the bracket, irrespective of investment. Okay. So in unlisted Indian companies, it does not really matter how much investment you are made in terms of shares. It might so happen that you may purchase just one share also in an unlisted company. Even that will be called as what? FDI. Let's understand this to an example. Okay? Let's say there is a listed company. In this listed company, you have a foreign entity which is purchasing 10% or more shares. Then what will that be called as? FDI. 10% or more. In the same listed company, if it is less than 10% in the shares, then what it will be called as? FPI. In the same company, in the same listed company, let's say a foreign entity is purchasing bonds. It is purchasing debentures. It is purchasing, for example, commercial paper. For those of you who are not aware of it, we'll come to that point later. Okay. So when you see this point, this is always what? FPI. This is always FPI. There's no doubt about it. So can you see how it is changing? Everyone? Let's say there is a unlisted company. In an unlisted company, if a foreign entity is purchasing the shares, generally, who are the unlisted companies in India? Generally, the unlisted companies happens to be the startups, generally. And the investors who are purchasing the shares of startup, we generally call them as venture capitalist, or we also call them as angel investors. But where these people should be from? Not Indians. They should be from abroad, outside. Did you get the point, everyone? No confusion here. So in unlisted company, right, it does not really matter whether you purchase 1% shares, 2% shares, or you may purchase even 100% also. Does not really matter. It is always, it will be FDI. You wanted to ask something? Huh. So, but it will not be considered as FDI. So I'm talking from the perspective of overseas investors. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. Write down the third criteria. हाँ, so there's a company which is a unlisted company. This unlisted company will take the approval of SEBI. It will complete all the formalities. After completing the formalities, it will go for IPO, initial public offer. You must have heard about IPO, right? So it will go for IPO. Initial public offer means company is issuing shares for the first time. Okay. Bhumika, are you able to see the board? Okay. Third criteria, you can write down. Third criteria. Third criteria is reinvested earnings. Third criteria is reinvested earnings of foreign companies. Reinvested earnings of foreign companies. Let's understand what do you mean by this word reinvested earnings. Okay. Let's say there is an FDI into India. Example of which is, let's say, Starbucks, or let's say this furniture company. I hope you must have heard of this, right? So let's say it's an FDI. It has already invested in India. After investing in India, this company has made huge profits. There are two options available to this particular company if it makes profit. Number one, it can repatriate the profits to its home country. From whichever country it has invested, it can take back the profits to its home country. That is possibility number one. Possibility number two is this profit, it can reinvest in India to expand its business. If the profit are reinvested in India to expand its business, even this profit will call it as what? FDI. I hope you understood the third criteria. Everyone? Okay. Arya, they will directly provide funding to the startups. They're not purchasing shares from the stock exchanges. What they generally do is they provide funding to the startups. In return to the funding, they'll get certain stakes in the startup. That is decided between the angel investor and the entrepreneur. I hope all of you must have seen the Shark Tanks. Okay? That's what happens in the Shark Tank, right? They provide for funding, in return they'll ask for certain stakes. Is this part clear? Okay, so this is the meaning of foreign direct investment. Let's move to the next one. Difference between FDI and FPI. Let's quickly summarize all the differences at one particular place. What is the first thing? Okay, meaning. So we can write down meaning. For FDI, already discussed. For meaning, for FDI, under FDI, you can write already discussed. Okay. Now, can someone define FPI in the most easiest manner? You have understood FDI. How do you define FPI? Something more simpler than that. Foreign investment in, but they're also making investment in Indian territory, na? Starbucks and all. So it is an FDI. How do you define FPI? Something more simpler. Something more simpler. Any foreign investment which is not FDI. Don't have to get into that. Any foreign investment which is not FDI. I hope that's the most simplest way of understanding FPI. Na? Why complicate things? Any foreign investment which is not FDI. That's it. So you can write down. Any foreign investment which is not FDI. But don't write that in the exam. It is for your understanding. Any foreign investment which is not FDI. Okay. Give me the handout. Okay. Next one, is it always accompanied by investment in shares? FDI? Yes. It is always accompanied by investment in shares, right? Yes. FPI? Not necessarily, right? Not necessarily. FPI can also come in shares, right? Not necessarily. FPI can be in the form of, it can be in the form of bonds, yes, bonds, debentures, bonds, debentures, bonds, debentures, commercial paper, government securities, etc. Okay. Threshold of investment in shares. For FDI, it is 10% or more. 10% or more. For FPI, less than 10%. What does it include? FDI. You can write transfer of capital. For FDI, right? Transfer of capital, technology, plus management. I hope you understood the significance of it. If a foreign company is investing in India, it is not just providing its money. It's not just providing its capital. It's also providing its technology, and it is also managing the business. In FPI, what it is providing for? Only money. Only capital. There's no technology, there is no management. So, right? Transfer of capital under FPI. Transfer of capital. Percentage of ownership. In case of FDI, 10% or more. 10% or more. And for FPI, less than 10%. In the bracket, right? Provided it's in form of shares. Less than 10% in the bracket, provided it is in the form of shares. Because if you purchase a bond, commercial paper, you don't get a ownership of the company. What are you doing? You are just lending your money. So you don't get the ownership. Which segment of market? I hope in the stock market you have studied about two segments, primary market and secondary market. Tell me, FDI comes into which segment? Primary or secondary? For benefit of all. Primary market is that market where you purchase shares directly from the company. That is primary market. Secondary market is that market where there's a trading of shares. So FDI, where do you think it will come? You are a foreign company is purchasing 10% or more shares. Obviously, purchasing 10% or more may not happen in the secondary market, but will happen in which market? Primary market. So you can write FDI, mainly primary market. Mainly primary market. What about FPI? Both. Here you must understand it is both. FPI, both primary and secondary market. Example being, okay, let's see, this is LIC. From LIC, you have a foreign entity directly purchasing shares, and this might happen in IPO, initial public offer. Which is this market? This becomes the primary market. It might so happen that LIC's shares are being purchased by me. I have purchased the shares, and later I am selling off the shares to a foreign entity. Which market will this be? Secondary. So can you see, foreign entity can come in the primary market also, it can come in the secondary market also. Clear? Okay. Next, nature of investment. For FDI it is long term. For FDI it is long term. For FPI, short term. In the bracket, you can write hot money. Usually FPI is also referred to as the hot money, because suddenly large amount of FPI may come in, or suddenly large amount of FPI may go out. That is why it is called as hot. Next is the role of investors. In FDI it is active role. Why it is active? Because the investors are managing the company itself. So active. Whereas in FPI it is a passive role. They don't take the management decisions. They just provide the capital. So far so clear? Which one? That is listed company. I'm talking about the listed company only. Generally, unlisted company is an exception. Okay. Okay. Next one is recent development. Let's understand what are the recent developments here. Okay. First recent development is, you can write down, increase in FDI limit on the insurance sector. This is the recent decision in the union budget. Increase in the FDI limit on insurance sector from 74% to 100%. Okay, what is this meaning of limit? Let's understand this. Let's say you have an insurance company which is in collaboration between an Indian company and a foreign company. Earlier, in this insurance company, how much investment can the foreign company make? It could make up to 74. Remaining investment of 26% should come from which company? Indian company. I hope you got this point. Now what we are saying is, now they can make 100% investment. Clear with that? Second recent change. FDI in LIC. FDI in LIC has been allowed up to, yes, any idea? How much? FDI in LIC allowed up to how much percent? 20%. Okay. It means in life insurance corporation, a foreign company can also make investment. but its investment can be maximum of only up to 20%, not beyond 20%. Similarly, if you see our banks, right? There are two types of banks in India. One is the public sector banks, and then you have private sector banks. In private sector banks, FDI is allowed up to 74%. But in public sector banks like SBI, FDI is allowed. It's not prohibited, it is allowed. But it is allowed only up to how much? 20%. So what used to happen is, before LIC became listed company, in LIC foreign investment was not allowed. But by the time LIC issued its shares, we said we can make investment of up to 20% in LIC as well. Is that part clear to everyone? Apart from that, another important thing which I would want to make it very clear to you is, in FDI, you have come across a sectoral cap. Like I told you, public sector bank, what is sectoral cap? 20%. For private banks, it is 74%. This sectoral cap is not the FDI cap. The sectoral cap is not FDI cap. This sectoral cap is actually the composite cap. When I say composite cap, means the limit is on FDI and FPI put together. दोनों मिला के कितना एक्सीड नहीं होना चाहिए? Sectoral cap. For example, we are saying in public sector bank, what is sectoral cap? 20%. But this 20% is not just for what? FDI. It is for FDI and FPI put together. Example being, let's say there is FDI already of 12% in SBI. How much is the additional investment which FPI can make? 8% only, not more than 8%. Clear with that? Similarly, in a private sector bank, you have an FDI of 50%. FPI can make investment of maximum up to how much? 24%. So this is quite important. You should know that, because people have this perception that it is just a FDI cap. It is not FDI cap. It is FDI plus FPI together. I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay. Third, yes. It is always, whenever we say sectoral cap, it is always composite cap. So when I'm saying that in LIC 20% FDI is allowed, even though we'd say FDI, it is not just FDI, it is FDI plus FPI put together. Okay, third change. Okay, Animesh, I'll write it in bigger font, don't worry. Next, you can write foreign lawyers and law firms. Foreign lawyers and law firms are allowed to practice in India. Foreign law firms and lawyers are allowed to practice in India on a reciprocal basis. On a reciprocal basis. Okay, please pay attention. What do you mean by reciprocal basis? Like you have India and UK, for example. If UK allows our law firms, our lawyers to operate in UK, we will allow UK-based lawyers, UK-based law firms to operate in India. It is always on what basis? Reciprocal basis. This is a recent change. Continue. However, they cannot appear before Indian courts, क्या फायदा फिर? They cannot appear before Indian courts. What will they do then? They cannot appear before Indian courts means they cannot plead a case. They cannot take up your case and plead your case before the Indian courts. So what will be their role then if you are allowing foreign lawyers and foreign law firms to operate in India? They cannot be involved in litigation. They cannot appear on your behalf before the Indian courts. But they can be involved in non-litigation matters. What do you mean by non-litigation matters? Example being, let's say there is a merger and acquisition of companies. You know, for merger and acquisition of companies, there are a lot of legal complexities involved. They can provide a legal advice on merger and acquisition. They can also be involved in providing legal consultation. But they cannot appear before Indian courts. I hope you understood. This is a recent change. That is why it becomes important. So I hope you have written down. What is the last line? Okay. They can involve in non-litigation matters. They can involve in non-litigation matters. They can involve in non-litigation matters. Okay. Fine. Let's quickly take up some of the okay. Can you quickly answer this question from Prelims 2020? Look at this question. I think it's not there in the handout. Is it visible to everyone? Can't zoom it, it's a PPT. Okay, you can just read, I'll just read out. With reference to FDI in India, which of the following is considered its major characteristic? What's the characteristic of FDI? It is an investment through capital instruments essentially in a listed company. It's yes. Let's keep it on hold, not a problem. It is largely a non-debt creating capital flow. Non-debt. Non-debt means it does not put any kind of obligation. We are not borrowing money. It is largely a non-debt creating capital flow. It is an investment which involves debt servicing. What is debt servicing? Debt servicing means you have taken loan and you are repaying loan. Is FDI about repaying loans? No, na. Why are you saying yes? It is investment made by foreign institutional investors in government securities. Government securities is FPI. So we are confused between the two now. It is largely a non-debt creating capital flow. We get investment, which we are not required to pay back because we are not borrowing money. Possible hai? Yes. It is investment through capital instruments essentially in a listed company. Why not essentially? It can, one thing that you can argue is, it is not just in a listed company, it is also in a unlisted company. You could argue that. Second and very important, यहाँ पे कहाँ लिखा है कि shares? कहीं लिखा है shares? Why are you forgetting that? It is saying what? What are capital instruments? Shares, bonds, commercial paper, debentures. Is it talking about shares? It is not talking about shares, no? So that is why this becomes wrong, this becomes right. Is that clear to everyone? Okay. Look at this question, Prelims 2011. Like I said, FPI was earlier called as foreign institutional investment. Okay. FII is considered more stable? No. FDI flows into secondary market. FII brings better management skills. Only answer which is left is B. Prelims 2012. Select the which of the following would include FDI in India. Subsidiaries of foreign companies in India. How much investment has the foreign company made? 100%. होता ये तो होना चाहिए. Majority foreign equity holding. Majority means what is the percentage? More than 50%, 51% and above. Companies exclusively financed by foreign companies. Exclusively means 100%. Portfolio invest to possible nahi hai. So answer is what? 1, 2 and 3. I hope you understood this. But this is a googly. Which of the following can be included in FDI? Generally, if you study the major textbooks, right, you'll find in the textbooks they'll only mention about the meaning of FDI. But they don't mention as to what are the instruments which are eligible to be considered as FDI. So obviously it's a difficult question if you see. And this question is directly asked from FDI Consolidated Policy Circular, published by Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. Directly it is asked from there. So what we'll do, you can see the next part. Next part is what are the instruments eligible to be considered as what? FDI. That is what we're going to cover. Okay. So if you have a Indian company can raise capital within India from foreign investors. Within India, it can raise capital from foreign investors. Let's say I am Indian company. In India, I am issuing certain capital instruments. All of you are foreign investors. You are investing in my company. Let's see what are the different ways to which you can invest in my company. Number one, you can purchase the shares. Second, you can purchase the bonds. I hope everyone knows the difference between shares and bonds. Bond means you are lending your money. You are not becoming the owner of the company. You are lending your money. Then we have debentures. Any idea what's the difference between the two? Bond, good. Bond is a secured debt. Debenture is a unsecured debt. Animesh, is the font okay now? Okay. So what's the difference here? Let's see. Let's say I am borrowing money through bond. Let's say I'm borrowing 100 rupees money from you. When I'm borrowing that 100 rupees, I'm keeping aside some collateral. I'm keeping aside some asset which belongs to me. It means in future, if I'm unable to repay the bond, what I will do? I will sell off that asset and then I'll pay you back that money. That is why it is called as what? Secured. Debenture is unsecured. There's no collateral. There's no asset against that. Next is commercial paper. Yes, what's the difference between commercial paper and debenture? Anyone? What's the difference between the two? Okay, please understand. Commercial paper, just like debenture, is also a unsecured debt. Difference is, debenture is generally more than 1 year. It's long-term loans, long-term borrowing. Commercial paper is generally less than 1 year. So let me just explain to you. I borrow 100 rupees from you. And when I borrow 100 rupees from you, let's say I own a property worth 100 rupees. I'm keeping this property aside and I'm borrowing money from you. What is that? It's a bond. It's a bond. If I borrow money from you, 100 rupees, but I don't have any asset with me, what it can be? It can be either debenture or, depending upon what? For how long I am borrowing money. If I'm borrowing money for more than 1 year, it's a debenture. If I'm borrowing money for less than 1 year, it is commercial paper. I hope this part is clear. Next one is fully and compulsorily convertible debenture. Look at the word fully and compulsorily convertible debenture. What do you think it is getting converted into? It is getting converted into shares upon maturity. So, please pay attention, you can write down later. I borrow 100 rupees from you through a debenture, normal debenture. Let's say I borrow for 5 years. After 5 years, I will have to pay you back that 100 rupees. But if I borrow 100 rupees from you through fully and compulsorily convertible debenture, after 5 years, what will happen? Whatever 100 rupees that I have borrowed from you, I will not give you back. That 100 rupees will get converted into what? Shares. For initial 5 years, until the debenture matures, what are you as far as the company is concerned? You are a creditor to the company. Creditor to the company means you have lent your money. But after 5 years, what will you become? From creditor, you will become a shareholder. समझ में आया सबको? Is everyone clear? Okay. The Indian company can also raise capital from overseas market. Okay, please understand the difference. I am an Indian company. So far, I was issuing shares, bonds, debentures, where I was issuing them in India. You as foreign investors, you were coming to India and purchasing these instruments. यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? You are not coming to India. I as an Indian company, I am coming to you. Raise capital from overseas market. How can we raise capital from overseas market? Number one, I can also issue shares. Okay, as far as this is concerned, it has been allowed since 2022. Before 2022, Indian company was not allowed to issue shares in overseas market like UK, USA, etc. It is not allowed to issue shares. When did we allow this? Recently. That is in the year 2022. So before this, how were Indian company getting share capital from other countries then? For that, we used to have what is called as American Depository Receipts, ADR, or it is also called as Global Depository Receipts. Tanish, I'll come to your doubt. Just hold on. Let me complete this. I'll come to that. Okay. American Depository Receipts or Global Depository Receipts. Just hold on, everyone. Concentrate. What's your name? Huh? Sumit. Okay. Let's say I'm an Indian company. Until 2022, let's say you or are investors based in US. I could not sell the shares directly to you in US, right? So what I used to do, let's say I'm an Indian company. Let's assume ki this is a share. It's a share. And Sumant, right? Sumit. Okay. So Sumit here is one of the intermediary in US. I hope you know the intermediary means a kind of middleman, right? Let's say in this case, he's a bank in US, let's say Citibank. So what I will do, this share, I will give it to Sumit. Later. Okay? Now what Sumit will do on my behalf, I repeat, on my behalf, he will sell the shares of my company to you. When you purchase the shares from him, we'll not call them as shares. What we'll call that as? American Depository Receipt. Did you get the point? In the first case, which is allowed since 2022, from where are you purchasing the shares? Directly from me. Now, in ADR, you're not purchasing shares from me, you are purchasing from a intermediary. Some people will have a very valid doubt. So why would Sumit do your work? Sumit आपका काम क्यों करेगा, है ना? Nobody works for free, है ना? There's no free lunch. Why would he do my work? Because obviously he will charge some amount of commission. Did you understand the point? Let's say you have Infosys ADR in USA. Infosys ADR in USA means you have purchased the shares of Infosys in USA. Now you tell me which currency this ADR will be denominated. Not in rupees. They will be denominated in dollars. Where do you think they will be traded? Buying and selling of this, where do you think it will take place? US Stock Exchange, like New York Stock Exchange. Do you understand the concept of ADR? What is GDR? Everything is same except the fact that ADR is specific to which country? America. If Sumit is in UK and you purchase the shares from Sumit, in this particular case, we'll not call it as ADR, we'll call it as Global Depository Receipts. Did everyone get the point? No confusion? Okay? हाँ, वापस दे देना share मेरा. Okay? So this is what is ADR and GDR. Third is foreign currency denominated bond. Okay, foreign currency denominated bond and this bond, both are same. But this bond face value is in which currency? Rupees. This bond face value is in which currency? Foreign. Right? Then we have what is called as masala bonds. If I get into masala bond, it's a topic in itself. I'm not getting into that topic, but I'll keep it very simple. Masala bonds are simply rupee denominated bonds issued where? Not in India, issued in overseas market. We call that as masala bonds. You issue bond, rupee bond in India, it is called as normal bond. You issue rupee bond in US, it will be called as masala bonds. Foreign currency denominated bond, if I issue, I am borrowing in which currency? Foreign currency. Here I am borrowing in which currency? Rupees. Clear? Next. Foreign currency convertible bonds. Sana, just hold on. I'll come back to your doubt. Okay? Just stay back. I'll come back to your doubt. Foreign currency convertible bond. Can you see? What is this? Foreign currency denominated bond. This is foreign currency convertible. Both are denominated in which currency? Foreign currency. In both the cases, I'm borrowing in terms of dollar. In both the cases, I'm borrowing money. But here, when the bond matures, I have to repay the money. In this case, if the bond matures, it will get converted into shares. It is similar to what? Fully and compulsorily convertible debentures. Next, we have foreign currency exchangeable bonds. Any idea? What's the difference between the two? This is foreign currency convertible. This is exchangeable. What do you think is the difference? No, you don't get an option. Okay. Please understand. थोड़ा सा complicated है. In case of foreign currency convertible bond, let's say Tata Motors issues foreign currency convertible bond. Upon the maturity, I will get shares of the company which has issued me the bond. Who has issued the bond? Tata Motors. Let's say Tata Motors issues foreign currency exchangeable bond. In that particular case, when this bond matures, I may not get the shares of Tata Motors. Rather, I'll get the shares of a company which is associated with Tata Motors, like a parent company. Like which company do you think is closer to Tata Motors? Any company can think of. TCS. I can get the shares of TCS. What is common to Tata Motors and TCS? Both are owned by Tatas. I hope you understood this. So in case of convertible bond, I'll get the share of the company which has issued the bond. Exchangeable bond, I'll get the share of a company which is related to the parent company. So you can write down for your confusion, exchangeable bond. In case of exchangeable bond, the bond gets converted into shares of a related company. the bond gets converted into shares of a related company. Full stop. For example, bonds issued by Tata Motors may get converted into shares of TCS. Is this part clear to everyone? No confusion here? Okay. I'm giving you 1 minute time. Just look at all the financial instruments which are Indian companies issuing to foreign investors. Take your time and tell me which of these financial instruments you think are eligible for being considered as FDI. I repeat, I just want you guys to tell me कि you as a foreign investor, if you purchase which of these instruments, will that be accounted as FDI? Take your time. You have 1 minute. Yes, online students, please respond. For that, you need to understand the definition of FDI. है ना? You ready? Okay. How many of you ready? Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Others? 11, 12. Okay, good. What about you? You're also done? No. Okay, start. Which all are these instruments can be considered as FDI? Can you just tell me the number this side out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 1? Yes. If you purchase shares of Indian company in India, how much you should purchase? 10% or more. Can bonds be considered as FDI? Never. Even in unlisted companies, it's always shares. Understand? Debentures. Why? In bonds, what are you doing? You are borrowing money. Debentures also, you are borrowing money. Commercial paper also, you are borrowing money. What about this? Why? Okay. यहाँ पे confusion ये है. If there's a question, fully and compulsorily convertible debenture. Until the debenture matures. I repeat, until the debenture matures. Indian company has borrowed money. It is not an FDI. When the debenture matures, it gets converted into shares. Will it become FDI? Yes. UPSC being UPSC will not specify ki whether the debenture has matured or not. Do you get the point? You can't call up UPSC and ask, what has happened to debenture? Has it matured? Based upon that, I'll respond. You obviously can't do that. By default, what should you consider that as? By default, consider this as FDI. Clear with that? This side. Shares? Obviously, yes. ADR? Foreign currency denominated bond. I am borrowing money. Masala bonds? We are still borrowing money. What about these two? Once again, logic is same. Until the bond matures, it is not an FDI. When the bond matures, it gets converted to shares, it becomes an FDI. By default, what should you consider this as? FDI. आसान है. Okay.
Sir, suppose if our investment is made today and the bond matures after 10 years, 15 years, till then it's a debenture, right?
That's what I'm said. I understand that. That's what I was telling to you. कि when you purchase a debenture, ठीक है? When you purchase a debenture, you have lent your money to me for let's say 5 years. For 5 years, I will not consider that as an FDI. After 5 years, because it's a convertible debenture, after 5 years, the money will get converted into shares. Is that clear? So until 5 years, it's a debt. After 5 years, it is a share. But UPSC will not mention whether debenture has matured or not. Did you understand what I'm trying to say? Okay, I'll show you this folder. Is this part clear to everyone? Yeah, please. Yeah, let's not get into that. Well, I understand what you're getting to understand that. But I think for some students, this is already a very heavy topic. And in that, if I get to know what value the share is issued, it becomes more complicated. Some other day when I get into topic of bonds, probably we'll discuss that in detail. Or I'll discuss after the class, don't worry. Is this part clear to everyone? Okay. What's your name? Vikram. Okay. Vikram has a very valid question. He says, so this is a debenture. Because it's a debenture, you are borrowing money. How can I consider that as an FDI? This is his valid question. Anyone else has any such questions? Is this part clear? Okay. Vikram, please tell the answer to this question. Obviously, it is all to everyone as well. Which of the following can be included in FDI? What can you eliminate? Non-resident external deposits. So 1, 2, and 3, and 3 only. Global deposit receipts. Yes. Foreign currency convertible bond. Yes, Vikram?
So, but we have deciphered it from the question or the answer we are relevant. But is it making a sense like...
It does. It does. It does. If you go to FDI Consolidated Policy Circular, you can open that. In that Consolidated Policy Circular, it is explicitly mentioned foreign currency convertible bond, foreign currency exchangeable bond, ADR, fully convertible debenture, all of it will be considered as an FDI. That's the logic.
Isn't it a projection? Like we are making higher projections of what we have to do. For example, if something is going to be an FDI after 20 years.
We don't count it as FDI then. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We'll count it as FDI when it matures. Yes, exactly. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. This bond has a maturity of 10 years. Before maturity, it is ECB, external commercial borrowing. After maturity, it is FDI. Is UPSC saying anything about it? Whether it is before maturity or after maturity? It's not saying anything, no? Clear? Okay. Chalo, take it. Fine. Let's move to the next part. Is everyone else comfortable? Yeah. Okay. It says foreign institutional investment with certain conditions. Like if the FPI investment is more than 10%. From FPI, what will it become? It will become FDI. Okay, fine.
So that investment can be anything, right?
Which one? Understand it's a UPSC question. Had it been my question, you could criticize my question. You are criticizing the UPSC question. Can you do anything about UPSC? You can't find fault in the UPSC question. That's how it is, right? If you're trying to find fault, will you be able to get the right answer? You tell me. No, right? है ना? So I'll discuss with you after the class. ठीक है? Is that okay? Okay. Thanks, Vikram. Okay, chalo. Let's move to the next part. Huh? Can? They can purchase bonds, they can purchase other things, they can do that. Okay, fine. Let's move to the next part now. The next part is trends in FDI. Okay, write down the trends. Okay, the first trend that you can write down is the cumulative FDI inflows into India. Cumulative FDI inflows into India has crossed $1 trillion. Has crossed $1 trillion in December 2024. So total amount of FDI, it has already crossed $1 trillion. It's a big milestone which India has achieved recently. Second trend, India ranks at 15th place. India ranks at 15th place in FDI inflows. Third, top source country for FDI. Yes, any idea? It is actually a tax haven. It is Singapore and Mauritius. Top FDI source country, Singapore and Mauritius. Both of which are tax havens. Next, sectors attracting highest FDI. Sectors attracting highest FDI. Sectors attracting highest FDI. Financial sector followed by IT sector. Financial sector followed by IT sector. Next, states attracting highest FDI. States attracting highest FDI. Yes, any idea? Maharashtra and Karnataka. Sambhav, non-resident external deposit basically means NRI deposits. The NRIs based also out of India, they are depositing in the Indian banks. That is non-resident external deposit. Okay, fine. Now, please, let's get into the topic of the mains oriented discussion. That is the net FDI. Okay. All of you, please pay attention. Net FDI into India is basically calculated as gross FDI minus repatriation of profits by the foreign companies plus outward FDI by Indian companies. Okay. This is the definition of net FDI. Net FDI is equal to gross FDI minus repatriation of profits by foreign companies plus outward FDI by the Indian companies. Can you see the handout here? In the handout, can you see the present status? In the present status, you could see that the gross FDI into India has increased after seeing a decline in the last few years. However, the net FDI has decreased by almost 96% year on year as compared to the previous year. Okay, so looking at the formula, why do you think this net FDI may have got reduced? Looking at the formula, it's quite easy. Reason number one, repatriation of profits by foreign companies has increased. Foreign companies, if they are making profits in India, that profit, if they reinvest in India, what will that be? FDI. But after earning profit, rather than reinvesting, they are taking back their profits to the home country. Outward FDI. And outward FDI by Indian companies, even that has increased. Is that part clear? But this is a mathematical way of understanding things. Let's get into the analytical part as to why the net FDI has increased. Right? The reason number one. You have the reasons for FDI, right? Yahan pe. So right, the first reason. Decrease in the growth rate of gross FDI, due to geoeconomic fragmentation. Underline the word geoeconomic fragmentation. Let's understand what do you mean by this geoeconomic fragmentation. Okay, if you know, India has seen a wave of globalization. Due to this globalization, there used to be free flow of capital across the countries. Easily capital used to flow from one country to another. But if you see this year's economic survey, it says that slowly globalization is leading to what is called as geoeconomic fragmentation. I would call it as reversal of globalization, where the flow of capital is not based upon economic efficiency. Flow of capital is based upon geostrategic reasons. Have you heard of something called as China plus one strategy? What is happening in China plus one strategy? Companies are trying to find alternatives to China. Have you heard of nearshoring? Nearshoring and friendshoring? Friendshoring and nearshoring. Okay, let me just explain this. Let's say I'm US. Earlier, I used to allow my US based companies to invest anywhere across the world, including China. But now I want my US based companies to invest in those countries which are friendly with me. Example being, let's say India or Vietnam or any other country. Nearshoring means I want my my domestic companies to come and invest closer to US. Example being Mexico. So what is happening now? There is a disruption to the global capital flows. That disruption to global capital flows is going to affect Indian economy. It is being said that India would have got more amount of FDI had we not seen friend-shoring or near-shoring. Is that clear? Example being, US has come up with what is called as Inflation Reduction Act. Has anyone heard of this? Inflation Reduction Act? Okay. What is this Inflation Reduction Act? Surprisingly, it has nothing to do with the inflation. Thanks to Trump. Now, what is this Inflation Reduction Act? Basically, Inflation Reduction Act wants to attract the US-based companies to come and manufacture in US. Basically, it wants to encourage the production of electric batteries and electric vehicles. If you increase the production of electric batteries, electric vehicles in US, what do you think will happen to prices of these commodities? Might reduce. But they are calling it as Inflation Reduction Act. So don't you think the companies which were more likely to come to India are going back to where? US. Is this part clear? Okay. Second point. Second point. I understand that, but the kind of incentives also matter, right? If you are giving incentives, which is going to offset the higher labor cost. Which one? So that's what I'm saying. If the kind of incentives which US is offering to its companies, if those incentives is going to offset higher labor cost in US, obviously companies will still go there only, no? Second point you can write. Nature of FDI inflows.
So can we associate geoeconomic fragmentation with the protectionist ideology?
You can. So you can write nature of FDI inflows. Nature of FDI inflows. Put a hyphen and write. In the recent past, 70% of the FDI, 70% of FDI is in the form of investment. Is in the form of investment in the startup companies. Is in the form of investment in the startup companies, which enables them to exit. Okay, please pay attention. FDI, as we discussed, it can come into India in two forms. 10% or more in the shares of listed company. Usually, if a foreign company is investing in an Indian company, 10% or more, can I say that they will generally set up their base, be it manufacturing or services. Because they set up their base, what kind of investment they are actually making? They are making a long-term investment. Which means, let's say 1 year or 2 years, if they incur loss, do you think they will completely shut down their business and go back? If they incur loss for 1 or 2 years because they have already invested a lot in India, they will stay invested. They'll not exit from India. But if it is investing in unlisted companies, is that clear? If it is investing in unlisted company, it is believed that this investment may be generally short term as compared to this investment. I'm using the word relatively short term. Why so? Let's understand this. Let's say this is me, and I have purchased the shares of a company at rupees 10. I will wait for the share price to increase. Let's say share price increases to rupees 15. What will I try to do? I will try to book my profits. I will try to get a profit of how much in this case? 5 rupees. And to get that profit, I will try to sell the shares. What is happening here? In case of unlisted companies, when foreign investments are coming into unlisted companies, they have a certain target to be met in terms of profit they want to earn. As soon as they earn certain amount of profit, what they will do? They will exit. In India, which kind of FDI has increased? First one or second one? Second one. Which is enabling these companies to exit much faster. Are they actually setting up their base in India? They're not. Clear with that? Third, record number of IPOs. Record number of IPOs launched in 24-25. Record number of IPOs launched in 24-25 has enabled foreign investors to exit India. Has enabled foreign investors to exit India. Okay, what has happened in the recent year, 24-25? We have seen a record number of IPOs being launched. I'm a foreign investor. I have put my money in an unlisted company. The company has gone public. I think that I'm getting the right price or right value for my share. What will I do? I will probably sell it off to someone and I will take back my profit. It is similar to you investing in share. If you invest in share, if the share price increases, what will you generally try to do? Sell off the shares. This has been possible because of more number of IPOs launched in the last year. Clear with that? Next point. Increase in outward FDI by the Indian companies. Increase in outward FDI by the Indian companies due to liberal rules adopted by RBI. Due to liberal rules adopted by RBI in 2022. Okay. In India, we have FDI rules and regulations. FDI rules and regulations means foreign companies coming into India. Same way we have overseas direct investment rules. As the name suggests, overseas direct investment means Indian companies making investment in other countries. These rules have become very liberalized now, particularly after 2022. We have made it very easier for the Indian companies to invest outside India. So a lot of Indian companies are now taking this opportunity to go global. So that is one of the reasons why this net FDI has got reduced. Any idea which country do you think Indian companies are going to? Huh? Surprisingly, they are going to Singapore and Mauritius. From which country we are getting the highest FDI? There's something going on. वो हम बाद में cover करें class में. ठीक है, let's not get into that. There's something called as round tripping, which might be happening, but let's not get into that topic right now. We are getting into this topic that is about net FDI. यहाँ तक clear है सबको? Everyone? चलो. If Indian companies make investment outside India, net FDI is gross FDI minus this. If this value increases, what happens to net FDI? That's what I'm trying to do. Okay? Okay. Okay. Let's understand now why is it not a matter of concern. Okay. Mm-hmm. Basically, what happens in when angel investors, foreign investors invest in startup companies, they are giving funding to startup companies. In return of that funding, they will get certain equity stakes in the company. They get certain percentage of shares. What they generally do is they make investment or they give funding to a startup company with some target. Let's say if I am investing 100 crores, I will wait until I think that I'm going to get back 150 crores. As soon as I think that I'm going to get back 150 crores, what will I do? I will sell off my shares and exit it. That's what is happening in India. Okay, fine. Right, why it is not a matter of concern? According to RBI. Now this is very interesting. Let's see what is RBI saying here. Okay, right on the first point. Increase in outward FDI by Indian companies, increase in outward FDI by the Indian companies shows Indian companies becoming global. Shows Indian companies becoming global. I think this is something which is quite valid argument put forth by RBI. Second thing, just pay attention. Let's say this is me and I have purchased share at rupees 10. Later, I sell the share at rupees 15. Depending upon how you see it, I repeat, depending upon how you see it, me selling shares can be positive news for some it might be a negative news. For example, some people might see this as a negative news. Why they will see it as negative news? They will think shares are being sold. If shares are being sold, they think कि people don't want to hold on to the shares. Did you get the point? So they will say that because the shares are sold, there is no demand for the share. This is negative way of looking at it. There is other way of looking at it in a positive manner. Positive manner, how you could see this is, I purchase the share at rupees 10, I'm selling it at rupees 15. You're not seeing whether I'm selling the share or not. What are you seeing basically? Whether I'm making profit or not. So when I sell the share, by selling the share, I'm actually making a profit. Making profit is a good news for some. Is that clear? Now, what is happening is you have foreign companies. They are investing in shares of startup company. Because startup companies have gone public, what are they doing? They are selling off the shares. You know what economists are saying? Economists are saying that foreign investors are selling the shares. Because they're selling the shares, it's a bad news. But what RBI is saying? Don't see whether they are selling the shares or not. See what they are doing by selling the shares. Are they making profit or loss? They are making profit. Because they are making profit, tell me it's a good news or bad news for the Indian economy? Good news. So this is what RBI is trying to say. The very fact that foreign investors are selling the shares and making profit, it's a good thing. That's what RBI says. Whether you agree with the RBI or not, it's a matter of debate. Is that clear? Right on. Foreign investors are selling the shares of the startups. Foreign investors are selling the shares of the startups to book their profits. To book their profits. Comma, which is a good news. Which is a good news for the Indian economy. Okay. Next point. Free outflow of capital. Next point. Free outflow of capital. Free outflow of capital is a sign of open economy. Is a sign of open economy. Full stop. This may lead to increase in inflows in future. This may lead to increase in inflows in future. Okay. Another logic of RBI. Let's see. This is India. In India, what is happening? FDI is coming into India. In India, after investing, it is making profits. Whatever profits it is making, that profit it is able to take away to its home country. RBI says this is a sign of free economy, wherein there is free flow of capital also, inflow of capital, and there is free flow of outflow of capital. Why RBI says it's a good sign is because, let's say we don't allow them to take back the profits. I'm just giving an example. We don't allow them to take back the profits. Do you think they'll come in the first place? They'll never come in the first place. They'll think we'll invest in India, we'll make profit, but what if Indian economy does not allow us to take back our profits to our home country? So because we are allowing them to take back their profits, they will think, let's once again come back into India, let's make investment and once again make profits. It's a sign of matured economy. something like US economy. US is very open to both inflow as well as outflow. Is that part clear? Okay. Let's see why it is a matter of concern. You guys have to tell me why it's a matter of concern. Decline in net FDI, why is it a matter of concern? We still don't know whether they're coming back to India or not. Good. So what she says is, we know that they're going out of India, but whether they're coming back to India, it's too early to say. Good. Then? Yeah, so I'll just tell you one point. You must understand that India is a investment hungry country. We need investment actually. These companies are making profit. Those profit where they should actually invest. That profit which they are earning, they should actually invest in India because we need more investment. But what are they doing with the profits? They are taking it back to the home country, which is loss of investment for us. That's point number one. Point number two, if you see Indian companies, ideally, where do you think our Indian companies should invest? They should ideally invest in India because we need more investment. But what are the Indian companies doing? They are taking our money and they are going and investing in outside India. So these are the two concerns. So please write down. First concern. Which one? It does. If there's more outflow, will there be a shortage of dollars? You can say that. Okay. So write down the first one. We'll discuss about that. There's separate reason. It is being said that last year there was fall in the consumption expenditure of the Indian economy because there's lack of demand. So what foreign companies thought, if there is no demand in the economy, what's the use of investing? Whatever profits we earn, let's go back and keep that profit in our home country. That's the reason the budget gave a lot of impetus to consumption expenditure. So right, the first point. Increase in outward FDI by the Indian companies. Increase in outward FDI by the Indian companies would hurt. Increase in outward FDI by the Indian companies would hurt investment rate. Would hurt the investment rate within India. Second, increase in repatriation of profits. Increase in repatriation of profits by the foreign companies may lead to decrease in FDI in future. May lead to decrease in FDI in future. So let's discuss the last one. Steps needed. Steps needed. Please write down one important step. Revamp model bilateral investment treaty. Revamp model bilateral investment treaty to attract. Revamp model bilateral investment treaty to attract more FDI. To attract more FDI into India. Okay. Model BIT is a topic in itself. It's a very lengthy topic, but I'll just give you a basic understanding about what is bilateral investment treaty, a basic understanding which is needed to write this particular point. Prior to 2016, we used to sign what is called as bilateral investment treaty. Let's say this is India and this is other countries. So whenever FDI used to come from other countries into India, to that FDI, we used to offer some kind of protection. Look at the word investment treaty. We used to offer some kind of protection to FDI. What kind of protection? For example, we used to assure the foreign companies that once they invest in India, there will be legal clarity. Legal clarity means unnecessary rules, regulations, laws will not be changed. Because constantly if you keep changing laws, rules and regulations, it will affect the ease of doing business. We also used to say that we will give you tax clarity. We'll say you upfront, ki this is the amount of tax you have to pay. Once a commitment is given, we'll not change it retrospectively. Okay? Then we also used to say, you invest in India, and if you think that government has committed some mistake, you can directly approach international tribunals. Not the Indian courts, whom we used to allow them to approach. International tribunals. You must understand, the Indian government does not want to be dragged before the international tribunals. That is one of the reasons why India has not become a member of International Criminal Court. We think that our courts are impartial and they will handle the case properly. So because of this problem, a lot of foreign companies had dragged India before International Tribunal. Can you give me one particular example? Have you heard of Vodafone case? Vodafone actually dragged India before a international tribunal. So if you look at the BIT, between the government and the foreign companies, BIT was more favoring whom? It was favoring the foreign companies. More protection was given to foreign companies. So we have cancelled the BIT. Sare BITs we have cancelled. After cancelling BIT, now we have come up with what is called as model BIT. Now, what's the problem with the model BIT? Earlier BIT was tilted towards whom? Foreign companies. Now the model BIT is tilted towards whom? More to the Indian government. It offers more protection to the Indian government. So obviously, if such is a case, foreign companies will think twice before investing in India. This is a recommendation which has been made by this year's economic survey. We'll discuss that topic separately, but this is something that you should know if you're writing a conclusion. So far, so clear, everyone? Okay. Let's quickly take up the practice questions. Okay. Practice MCQ number 1. All of you just look at the practice MCQ number 1. Just look at the question and tell me what do you think is the answer. Yes? 1, 2 and 3. Okay, B for Bombay or D for Delhi? Huh? Bombay? How many fitting Delhi? Delhi? 1, 2. Okay, what's your name? Aditi, can you just read out the first statement? What is it? Foreign investment in shares of listed Indian company. Is it necessarily an FDI? Is it necessarily an FDI? We discussed now. If it is less than 10%, it is FPI. 10% or more, it becomes what? FDI. Clear? So that is why the right answer is 2 and 3 only. What about the second question? Okay, anyone says D? D for Delhi? Anyone in favor of D, Delhi? No? Anyone with me? I am in favor of D. जब मैंने अपना हाथ उठाया तो people are lifting their hand as well. Okay, why do you think? I want everyone to focus on the statement. FPI investment into India, what does it say? Can. Can it lead to ownership and capital? Can it lead to ownership or not? Why no? If it is less than 10%, it is ownership, na? Less than 10% is ownership. Capital though, it is there always. So, the right answer in this case is 2, 3 and 4. Basically, this is showing how careful you should be while reading the question in the actual prelims examination. People tend to not read the question carefully. And let me just tell you, if you commit such mistakes in the actual prelims examination, it will not let you sleep for 2 to 3 days. Understand that. So you should never commit such kind of silly mistakes. FPI can invest in less than 10% of the shares. If you purchase share of any company, what you get a percentage of ownership. You are getting less than 10%, but are you still getting ownership or not? That's what I'm saying. It can lead to ownership. Though ownership is less than 10%. Next question. Yes? Masala bonds, are they? No. Foreign currency convertible bond? Fully convertible debenture? Good. Good. Online students respond. Next question. MCQ number 4. Sectoral cap is a composite cap. Is it right? It's a composite cap. Under approval route, approval must be taken from the concerned ministry or department. FDI can come into India under 2 routes. One is automatic route. Automatic route means no need to take any kind of prior approval. Approval route means you have to take approval from the concerned ministry or department. Like if you are investing in coal mining, which ministry's permission will be taken? Ministry of Coal. If you are investing in telecommunication, Ministry of Telecommunication. So you have to take the permission of the concerned ministry or department. Okay, look at this C. if FDI changes to FPI, it would be continued to be treated as FDI. Please write there in the statement C, once an FDI, always an FDI. Once an FDI, always an FDI. I'll discuss what it is. Okay. Let's say a foreign company invest 10% or more in a Indian company. 10% or more shares means what will it be? FDI. Later, I'm saying later, it is selling off 2% of the shares, such that now it has 9% of the shares of the company. Initially, it invested 11%, then it sold off 2%, left with how much? 9%. What has happened to the investment? Investment has fallen to below 10%. Ideally, because the investment has fallen to below 10%, what we should call this as? FPI. Government says no. Once we treat you as FDI, we'll always treat you as FDI. That's what I said. Once an FDI, always an FDI. So the last one is incorrect. FDI is allowed in inventory based model of e-commerce. Inventory based model basically means you have a e-commerce company. E-commerce company will have a platform, and from that platform it can sell its own goods. It can sell its own inventory. That is not allowed in India. That will cover in the next class, because there's one PYQ which is pending with respect to Amazon. I'll take up that point later. Okay? Look at this question. Foreign lawyers and law firms are allowed to practice in India only on reciprocal basis. Foreign lawyers are allowed to appear before Indian courts. 100% FDI is allowed in insurance sector, but FDI is prohibited in LIC. Net FDI inflows into India has drastically reduced in 24-25. Generally, we keep saying to students, if you come across a extremely worded statement, wrong mark kar dena. But यहाँ पे ये statement क्या होगा? It is true. Gross FDI inflows into India has reduced. It has not reduced. It has increased. Repatriation of profits for by the foreign companies has increased. Yes. What do you think is the answer? C. Yes. MCQ number 7. Repatriation of profits by the foreign companies from India has increased in 24-25 because record number of IPOs has enabled foreign investors to exit from startup companies. If you add the word because immediately after statement 1, and if you read both the statement as one, it makes sense. So the right answer in this case is A. Clear? There is a mains question for practice. Please do write an answer to that particular practice question. We will be meeting next week. So in the next week, I'll be discussing the answer to that particular question itself. Because it was the first class, I was taking it a little slow, but I hope you're okay with the pace. Chalo, theek hai. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll meet you next week. Thank you so much. And any of you have any doubts, you can now come and ask me doubts. ठीक है?